Hello, my name is Julia. Welcome to my kitchen. It has been absolutely gorgeous weather the past few days, and I'm really feeling something light and summery and refreshing for dinner. So I'm gonna whip together this super simple pasta dish. It's like literally hardly any ingredients, very little cooking, and I'm really excited. I've been dreaming about this for a while. I tried to make it recently, but the grocery store didn't have any basil. So I have basil today. It's gonna be the perfect refreshing meal. Honestly, I'm like already kind of sweating a little bit wearing a sweatshirt. So we'll see how this goes, but like I said, it's easy, so hopefully it shouldn't be too hard and too sweaty for me to whip this dinner together. The very first thing I'm gonna do is just bring some water to a boil. This is going to be to blanch my tomatoes in order to just peel the skins off. That is pretty much all the cooking involved besides boiling some pasta. If you've never blanched tomatoes or parboiled or anything like that, basically the idea is that you're shocking the tomato. You're not really letting it cook long enough to cook, but you basically shock the tomato and then you can peel the skin off really easily. I did this in my video where I canned salsa. I can link that in case you haven't seen it. Thankfully, this recipe only needs 3 to 4 Roma tomatoes instead of like the more than a dozen that I needed for the salsa. I'm gonna put a lid on this. And while that's heating up, I'm gonna get started chopping the rest of the ingredients that are going into my sauce. I have my windows open today because it is so beautiful out. So if there's more background noise than normal or you hear like car horns and stuff, that's why. I live pretty close to a relatively major intersection in the city. So that's what you get, that's city life. Gonna wash these tomatoes. And then to prep them for parboiling, I'm just going to cut a sort of like an X on the bottom end of them, and that's just gonna help me peel them a little bit easier. You don't have to do that. I just find that it helps the process. As soon as my water is boiling over here, I'll drop these in, let them boil for just about a minute. And then I'll take them back out of the water, and once they're cool enough to touch, I'll peel the skins off and chop them up. Now, for my other ingredients. I'm gonna grab out a big mixing bowl, and this is where I'm going to mix all of my ingredients that are gonna go into the sauce, and then once my pasta is done, I will throw it into that bowl as well and mix it all together. So, I just need 1/4 of a red onion, diced pretty finely, a clove of garlic, a bunch of chopped basil, basically as much as you have or want. I just got one of these at the store, so that's what I'm just gonna use the whole thing. And some olive oil, and I believe salt and pepper to taste. Recipe calls for 1 clove of garlic. I'm gonna use 2. I feel like more garlic is always better. I really do want to get this garlic nice and fine because there is no cooking involved, at least as it pertains to the garlic. So the finer I can get it chopped, the smaller each bite is going to be of garlic, and you won't get quite that really strong, almost kind of nasty raw garlic taste, but you will get all the delicious flavor as it sort of melds into the rest of the dish. That looks pretty good. Water is boiling, so I'm going to carefully drop my tomatoes in. These tomatoes are a little on the bigger side, so I might let it go for a little more than a minute, but while I let those go, I'm just gonna start getting my basil prepped. I did just give this a wash, and what I'm gonna do is break all the leaves off of the stems. And what I like to do is basically make a pile of all of my basil leaves on top of each other, like this. And that helps me cut them, and I'll show you exactly how they do that in a minute. All right, it's been probably a little more than a minute, and I can see that some of these skins have split. I'm gonna give it just another few seconds, and then I'm just gonna grab them out of the pot with a slotted spoon and set them on my cutting board to cool. Heat is off, and set these to cool. You can see some of these skins have split. That's gonna make it even easier to peel the skins off. And now that those are cooling for just a second, I'm gonna dump this water and set a bigger pot to boil. I didn't start that earlier, even though it will take a little bit longer, because the time that the pasta cooks is when the rest of the sort of sauce ingredients sit and, you know, just like meld all the flavors together. So that's what I'm gonna do now. I dream to one day I have one of those pot fillers that's over the stove. That would be a dream. One day, maybe. Okay, we got some salted water coming to a boil here, and let's get back to this sauce. These tomatoes are still just a bit hot to touch, so I'm going to finish prepping my basil here. And you can see I'm still stacking it in one big tall stack. So this is how I get the cut that I want on my basil. It can be a little bit finicky, so the easiest way for me is to stack my basil and then roll it into just a little roll up. It's easier when you don't fill the stack quite so full, but it's totally fine. And then I'm just going to slice slices along the whole thing. I believe that this kind of technique is called the chiffonade, if my high school cooking classes and my 10 years of studying French serve me. I'm not going to leave them quite like this, because what this does is it makes long, skinny strings, which can be great. Let me see if I can grab one. Something like this. But that's not totally what I want in my dish here. So what I'm going to do is actually just give this a couple of chops in the other direction, and that just gives me sort of, I don't know, shorter ribbons. And that is going to be perfect. So I will throw this into my bowl as well. And by this point, my tomatoes are definitely cool enough to touch. So you can see I can peel these skins right off. Absolutely no problem peeling them off. I'm gonna set these aside with my other food scraps. And you can see this tomato didn't have like any splitting, so that's where having this X sliced on the bottom can be really helpful to just get it started and have sort of an entry point to peel. This is absolutely not a beautiful process, but that's okay. Now I'm just going to chop these roughly, I mean bite-sized pieces, but no big deal exactly how they come out, and toss these into my bowl. This dish is really pretty. It's just so simple, like I said. You've got the nice green from the basil, that beautiful purple on the red onions, purple onions, and this kind of pinky red from the tomatoes on some nice pasta. And honestly, that's it, guys. It's so easy. This year is going to be the second year that I'm growing a little patio garden. We live in a condo and we have just a little back patio. I am investing a little bit more into it than I did last year, and I really want to ramp up my tomatoes. Last year I grew a few varieties and learned a lot, and this year I'm really hoping to grow a lot more tomatoes just for fresh slicing. I would love to do more like paste tomatoes, Romas, something like that for cooking and canning. So I'm feeling really hopeful and excited about that as spring slowly approaches. I know I said that this week has been really beautiful weather, but it is supposed to drop down cooler again next week. So fingers crossed that real spring comes soon, and then I get to build my little garden, and I will show you guys how that whole thing goes all summer. Now, the last ingredient for this beautiful pasta is a 1/4 cup of olive oil, nice olive oil. I'm just gonna eyeball this and let that sit in this pot. My water is still coming to a boil. I love my Dutch oven. It actually takes forever for it to come to a boil just because it absorbs so much heat, and so it takes a long time for it to heat up. But that is totally fine because, like I said, the time that my pasta is boiling is time that this sauce, it's not really a sauce, but it's time that all these other ingredients sit and marinate and meld together. So I'm just gonna glug some of this, about 1/4 cup. And I did check the recipe again. It does say salt and pepper are optional, as are red pepper flakes. I've never added red pepper flakes because honestly, I'm kind of a baby when it comes to heat, and it's delicious without them. So I don't think I'm gonna add salt and pepper either. I think we'll just salt and pepper when we serve ourselves. And that way we can just, you know, everybody can eat it the way that they like it. Everybody being me and my husband. Anyway, I hear my water getting close to a boil. I'm gonna start cleaning up my area here, and I think I might cut a pineapple while the pasta is boiling as well. I will add, I like to use a fun pasta shape when I make this. I just think it like adds a little bit of fun, a little bit of, I don't know, something different because the dish itself is relatively simple. I have no brand loyalty when it comes to pasta. Obviously there are some pastas that are way better than others, but I have just been trying to stock up whenever I see a deal for like $1 a pound, 99 cents a pound. This 16-ounce box is a pound. So whenever I see a good deal, I just like buy a handful of boxes and stick them in my pantry, which I am very grateful that I do have pantry space. I lived many, many, many years without having that option to like buy things when they're on sale and store them. So just pulled these out of my pantry. I can tell my water is almost boiling, and I will drop these in. This has to cook for 8 minutes. That gives me plenty of time to cut up my pineapple. Oh, before I do that, I actually have to put some flowers in water. I grabbed flowers while I was at the store as well, and those are still sitting on my counter. Let's do that. The thing I always do with pineapples is I wait too long to cut them, and I'm really glad this one looks absolutely perfect. Yeah, it's really good. Okay, ignoring the pineapple mess for just a minute. Down here, we have our little saucy mix-ins, and I did just drain the pasta, so let me dump it in. And I'll give this just a nice big mix to combine. This dish is great to serve hot or cold, so usually I'll make it hot, obviously, and we'll eat it hot for dinner or whatever I'm making it for. And then with the leftovers, we just eat them cold. We don't bother heating them back up. And It's just so delicious and light and refreshing in the summer, having that cold pasta. I mean, it's basically like a pasta salad, but minus like the mayonnaise or, you know, whatever Italian dressing you put in. I do think it is lacking a little oil. I probably was shy by not measuring the 1/4 cup, which is totally fine. I'll just drizzle a little bit more on top and make sure that everything is coated. Whew. I am a little bit sweaty, but it is worth it. So this is what we have. This is our final dish. Whew, it's gonna fall off my plate. I'm gonna put a little bit of salt and pepper on here just because I didn't add that earlier. I am eating alone because my husband works basically nights and weekends. So it is dinner time, but he is at work until 8 o'clock tonight and he won't be home till like 8:30 maybe. And I just get a little too hungry for that. So usually on those nights where he works past like 7, we eat separately, but that's okay. All right, let's give it a taste. I honestly forgot how delicious this is. When I was looking at it, I was thinking, this doesn't look very flavorful. Probably because it doesn't have a strong scent. Like a lot of cooked food, you can smell it, but because this is really barely cooked, it doesn't have much of a scent. But those tomatoes are so flavorful, and honestly more flavorful than I thought they would be because they were kind of like weak looking. And the basil is so fresh, and the bite of the red onion. It is just a deliciously, perfectly balanced dish. And like I showed you, it's not that hard to make. I mean, yeah, it's a little more complicated than, you know, dumping a jar of store-bought pasta sauce, and there's nothing wrong with that. I do that from time to time as well, but for a fresh home-cooked meal that is really quite simple and not many ingredients, this is a good one. I'm so excited to make this all summer. I also didn't mention, my hope is to have a bigger herb garden than I grew last year as well. I just had one basil plant, I think a rosemary, and a parsley. We don't use fresh parsley ever. I don't know why I picked that. So this year, I know we use a lot of basil and I love fresh basil, so I'm going to do basil. I might do mint because I would love to make like a fresh tzatziki. But other than that, I'm considering doing rosemary again. We used to do like a rosemary salmon pretty much once a week, and we haven't been doing that. I got kind of burnt out on that, but that beautiful fresh rosemary, oh my God, the scent is just so strong and fragrant and delicious. Anyway, I'm getting carried away. I cannot wait for my garden this year. And if I didn't already say it, that pineapple was absolutely delicious. The grocery store around the corner for me had them on sale for, I think, $2.99 each. So I might actually go back this weekend and grab another one because I'm probably gonna eat half of that just as a little sweet dessert after dinner. Well, I'm gonna keep eating this and enjoy my dinner. I just wanna say thank you so much for spending time with me while I spent some time in my kitchen today. If you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. And if you're new and you haven't subscribed, or if you're not new and you've been enjoying my videos, please consider subscribing. It really does help my channel grow and reach more people. And that's what I'm really hoping to do. So thanks so much, guys. And I'll see you in the next one.